Let's get right to you, as promised. Senator Marco Rubio. Senator, how you doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. As always, got a big old smile on my face. I always enjoy having you on. All right, enough gushing over you. Let's get to it here. You are standing up and saying that you will not vote to raise the debt limit. Senator Rubio, that's immediately putting a lot of smiles on a lot of faces here in conservative Southwest Florida, because I always ask, why the heck do we even have one if all we're going to do is keep voting to raise it? That said, tell me your thoughts on this.
Well, my thoughts are that not only are we going to raise the debt limit, there's no plan in place to stop having to do it. I mean, what people don't realize is that a vote on the debt limit next week or next month is only going to require us to come back and do it again in 10 or 11 months, because the government continues to spend money it doesn't have. It continues to spend more than it takes in, and that's just not sustainable. It's as simple as that. So I think this is the last chance we probably have before the 2012 election to confront the central issues of our time, and those central issues are an economy that's not growing and a debt that is growing. And we have to deal with both of those things. They have to be dealt with at the same time in a comprehensive way. And I think this vote on the debt limit is probably the last chance we have to do that before the next election.
Senator Marco Rubio on the line with us right now. Senator, the debt that we have, I believe, is more of a threat than terrorism to our national security. This is a massive threat to our economic and national security. Half of it, foreign investors, mostly China, lay out to us the reasons why it is so dangerous to keep going into debt and spending like this.
Well, I guess the best way to put it is because at some point you may not be able to pay it back, and then your ability to borrow and fund government will be gone. Look, I remember years ago when mortgages used to work that when you went in to get a mortgage, they would only lend you a certain percentage of what you made. I mean, your debt to income ratio, they used to call it. And then, of course, they stopped doing that, and it's one of the reasons why we had this meltdown in housing and why all these foreclosures are going on. Well, that's what's happening with the government. It's borrowing more than it's able to pay back, and it's doing it at an alarming rate. And eventually the people that lend us money are going to wake up and say, we're not lending you anymore, or if we lend you, we're going to make you pay us higher interest rates, which means not only will all of us have higher interest rates, but we'll have to borrow more money just to pay the debt. And there's no one here with a plan to deal with it. I mean, no one is dealing with it seriously. They're playing politics with it. They're trying to figure out where to line up on it. Yesterday we heard one of my colleagues in the Senate kind of instructing his colleagues to attack the Tea Party on this and call this extremism. And everyone's figuring out how they can use this politically, but who's going to work on solving this? Because if this is not solved, we're going to pay a terrible, terrible price.
Senator, you are addressing some of the frustrations that we had some callers call in about earlier. Nothing's getting done. Nobody's standing up for anything. And I contend that, damn it, you are. Now, that said, I want to be clear. What you just stated was there was this conversation overheard by Chuck Schumer and a few others saying, let's keep using the word extreme when talking about the Republican budget. That said, yes, they're using this as a political ploy. But, Senator, I'd ask you, are we going to have more people like you standing up and saying enough is enough?
I hope so. I think that really the place up here is divided into three groups. There's a group of people that are ready to fight, ready to take this on because it's why they ran and why they're here. There's a group of people that want to take this on, but they're afraid because of what it could mean politically. And there's a group of people that are looking at it and saying, I can't wait till the other side jumps into this thing so we can attack them for being extremists, for wanting to wipe out Social Security or Medicare, for the kind of old-fashioned demagoguery that we've seen in politics for too long. So I think that's what we're facing, and I'm hoping that more and more people will join the first group, the group of people that are ready to do something about it, including some Democrats.
Talking with Senator Marco Rubio on the line with us right now, who also penned this op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, Why I Won't Vote to Raise the Debt Limit. You could check that out. Again, it's in the Wall Street Journal right now. It's just really spells out exactly what he's doing and why, and, of course, what he stands for. Marco, I'd like to switch gears here for a second and chat with you about Libya. This situation, not only do we have absolutely zero clarity coming out of the White House in terms of a more gray area, we're looking at some of these rebels that we're apparently considering arming, and we're hearing reports that Al-Qaeda could be within this rebel group and part of this uprising. Can you give us your take on this situation right now?
Well, first of all, I think some of that might be a little bit overblown, to be honest with you. I mean, we'll learn more today, but let me just say that, anytime you put a collection of people together anywhere in that part of the world, you're going to get some bad characters here and there. But there's really no compelling evidence that we've seen so far that this is somehow a front for Al-Qaeda. Are there Al-Qaeda elements to it? Maybe. That's possible. We know a lot of members of Al-Qaeda came from Libya. But ultimately, that's why it's important that we're engaged. I mean, if we're engaged and involved, then I think we can keep some of those folks out. If we're not engaged, then the vacuum is created, and they could certainly come in and try to capitalize on this.
One issue that I've had with this, with the president saying this is a humanitarian mission, is that, you know what, if you take that road, well, we're going to have to go to Darfur. We're going to have to go to North Korea. We're going to have to go to Tibet, where back when it was really cool and the Beastie Boys were touring around the country in support of free Tibet. All of that comes into play here. Senator, I'd ask you, is there any way that anyone can just kind of level with us? I mean, is this really just about strategic and economic interests?
The answer is you're right, and the big boy answer to all this is you can't engage in all those places because you can't really make a difference in all those places. I mean, there are some places where you just can't do it, because it won't work. You don't have the capability, or even if you did, the cost would be too high, the exposure would be too high. Libya is not that case. I mean, really, the issue with Libya is wiping out their air force. I mean, it took all of about 72 hours to do that, and all their air defenses, and to degrade their ability to carry out genocide. But look, let's not forget who Muammar Gaddafi is. This is a really bad guy, not just a mean guy to his people. I mean, he murdered 200 and something Americans in that Lockerbie bombing, and then got away with it. Okay, this is a guy who had a full-scale weapons program on the verge of a nuclear capability, and the only reason why he abandoned it is because he was afraid he was going to become the next Saddam Hussein. This is not a good guy. Now, that being said, we had other things on our plate and didn't really focus on him, but once the Libyan people stood up and said, hey, we'd like to get rid of this guy, and his response to it was, well, if you try to get rid of me, I'll massacre people. The United States deduced that this guy had to go, and then once the President of the United States stands behind a microphone and says that someone has to go, you better be willing to walk that talk, because otherwise you're putting the credibility of the United States on the line, and ultimately you're going to negatively impact our ability to carry out foreign policy all over the world.
And that's what I am basically begging for from this president, is just some sort of, number one, to walk the walk, and yes, to get the job done and have clarity to what we're doing. Senator Rubio, we only have a few more minutes left here, and we always end on kind of a lighter note. I'm not going to do so, though, this time. I just wanted to wrap up with this. So people, again, that haven't heard you speak before, they're hearing you now, your logic and why you're doing what you're doing. Senator Rubio, I would ask you, I've seen you just absolutely physically be worn down from so much campaigning and getting to where you're at today. You work a fierce schedule. Marco, why do you do what you do?
Well, because I have a chance to make a difference in this time of my life. I mean, I look at kind of the things my parents gave up so that I would have the chance to do the things they couldn't do, and from that comes a sense of debt, a debt to pay. I recognize that no matter how hard my parents worked or how many sacrifices they would have made, in most every other country in the world, it really wouldn't have mattered. We only could have gone so far. The reason why I've been able to pursue any of my dreams has been because I was privileged to be born a citizen of the United States, the greatest country in human history. And it can still be that. The last 100 years were a phenomenal time. It was the American century. The next 100 years can be the American century, too, perhaps even more so. It's there for us. And our people are the same people that built this great country. They haven't forgotten how to create jobs or open a business or change the world. On the other hand, our government's getting in their way. I mean, we have government policies, both in taxes and regulations, that obstruct it. We have a debt that's creating uncertainty, and no one has a plan on how to pay back or handle. And I have a chance to be a voice to do the right things here. It's not too late to save this country. It's not too late to keep it great. Our people are ready for that. They're just waiting for their leaders to join them.
Senator Rubio, like Ronald Reagan, I'm the eternal optimist, and you helped me with that. We took the House in 2010 and 2012. We're going to take the Senate and White House with constitutional conservatives like yourself. Thank you for your time. Last thing, again, I'll plug, you wrote this phenomenal op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, and, man, you've been making the rounds on TV. What have you done, and what do you have planned?
Well, what I'll be trying to do is kind of push on this idea of the debt limit being the last chance that we have before the 2012 election to really carry out some of these meaningful reforms that we campaigned on. After this summer, everyone's going to be focused on the election, and it's going to be hard to get anybody up here to do anything. It's already hard. It's just going to get harder. So this is our last chance to do it. I hope we can push this debate. I hope we can get some stuff done.
Senator Rubio, we're in your corner. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Take care.